Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for your patience for a couple of minutes. But we want to make sure everybody had their paperwork in order, and we now do. So I am at 6 minutes past the hour, 6 o'clock. I'm calling to order the Wyndham Northeast Union Elementary School District and the Westminster Center School District as well. Half of my Mr. Board Chair. Let me go to item number 2, which is adjustments to agenda. Are there any here? Do we have any suggested changes? All right. Anybody who is calling in remote, Jessa and Ginger, do you have any changes to the agenda? And can you find it on the website?
I do not.
All right, how about you, Ginger? We good? And is Lynn with us tonight? I'm not seeing her on the call. Well, we're both that she's done. Yeah.
I actually do.
Okay.
That's cool. The agenda.
Sure, that's what it is.
And maybe it would be year 5, C2.
All right.
But I think we need to approve the warning for the town meeting. Because that goes to the town of Florida, that's due on the 17th.
Yeah, and we are due 4 hours tonight. So let's put that in. I think there's some things we may want to talk to you about that, because I think, unfortunately, when we have a warning to sign, we might end up calling a 5-minute meeting to sign the papers, because we don't have that tonight a warning to draft for Westminster. I don't know. It sounds like you guys are going to meet it. You're not going to have a meeting until
April 30, but they still want the warrant articles to prepare for the kind of.
Well, let's put that on as an agenda item, and we can figure out what exactly it is to do.
I think it comes under plans for town meeting,
Okay.
which is there on the agenda.
Okay, then we can do it that, way. So why don't we, with your indulgence, why don't we do that? All right, so, I'll make one, which is the one that I tend to make at this point, which is introductions, partly online meeting, and then we'll ask for communications and public comment. I'm going to start this off by introducing myself. I'm Jack Breyer. I represent the town of Grafton, this board, and I'm still chair, if I say it. So off to my right.
David Major, Westminster School District.
Andy House, Superintendent of Schools.
Charlie Hutchison, Westminster School Board.
Cheryl Charles, Westminster School Board.
Melissa Carlstrom on the from Westminster.
Angela Cartier, the principal at Grafton Elementary School. Liz Hardy, principal, Westminster Center School.
And Ricky Adams, Technologies Director.
I'm going to ask the folks from the board members that are online to introduce themselves, starting with Jessa.
I'm Jessa West Clark from Grafton.
Is Elise with us this evening?
Looks like she might be the phone number.
I think she's the phone number.
Elise, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Hi, this is Elise.
And,
I will be on Zoom pretty soon, so I'll be off the phone.
all right, and you are a member of the Westminster Union Elementary School District.
Correct.
From Westminster, right? Okay, and is Lynn with us tonight?
She just came in.
Lynn, oh, Hi, man.
Lynn Morgan, from Athens, part of the group out there. Okay.
And Ginger? Ginger, you're muted.
Yeah, I just got the sound. I wasn't able to hear any of you till now, but, so I don't know what you just said.
That we couldn't introduce everybody if we didn't introduce you.
Okay, yeah, I'm representative from the Athens, School Board, the joint school board for the two Athens and Grafton towns.
Thank you. And if there are other members who would like to, who are not members of the board who would like to introduce themselves, especially if they plan to speak this evening, I encourage you to pipe up right now. I do see Kim Record, who is our clerk, David Clark, who's a representative from on the high school board from Westminster. Liz Bazin, Nicole Barnett, Amanda Morris, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And we should move on at this point. A couple new people are coming in. Desiree and Elise coming on. All right. This is the point where of public comment, and if anyone has anything to say, just introduce yourself and speak up. Must be tremendous satisfaction in our community tonight, that's all I can say. All right, item 4 is approved minutes from December 9th. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes. All right. Oh, by the way, I encourage everybody to speak up. It's been my observation that the little owl thing does not pick up voices very clearly, so not that we want you to shout, but if you want to speak up a little more than just your indoor voice, that's fine. So we got a motion to approve. Any discussion? So let's do the roll call. See, we'll start with Ginger.
I approve.
Please. Wait, I can't hear you.
Yes.
All right, there we go. Jessa.
Yes.
All right. Who else we got? We got
David?
David?
Yes.
Yes.
Approve.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, there we go.
Sorry.
It's unanimous. The minutes are approved. Let's move on to item 4. Principal's report. Who wants to go first, please?
Yeah, I'll start. Westminster currently has 155 students, K-6. We have 1 VTVLC student, and there are 4 students who are homeschooling for this year. At Grafton Elementary School, we currently have 44 students. There are 3 VTVLC students and 5 students that are homeschooling. 2 of our VTVLC students are planning to return next week, so that'll put us up to 46 in the building.
Very good.
At this point, we have 34 confirmed COVID cases for the year since the start of school. It looks like we'll talk more about the COVID protocols later in the agenda, as guidance has changed recently. We currently have had, and I think it's more than this, I have 17. Desiree, can you check that number for me? I never ran it by you, I'm sorry.
I sure can.
What'd you say?
She said I sure
Yep.
can.
Okay, thanks. I'll get back on that, sorry. So winter sports this year will look a little different than in years past. We won't be doing our typical trip to Okemo due to the COVID restrictions. So we are going to just offer winter sports options on campus during 4 afternoons this season. So classes will rotate between cross-country skiing, ice skating, and snowshoeing on 4 different afternoons, and it's all weather dependent, but we're hoping that it works out. You guys are doing something similar? Yeah, same. We're planning to do something as well, but not like we normally had. Mandy Walsh, our librarian and farm to school teacher, and then Wendy Johnson, our PE teacher, have put together 4 Wednesdays where the kids will participate in some outdoor activities, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, and all of that, of course, depends on the snow. We were going to have it yesterday as our first day, but there just wasn't enough snow and it's a little too icy. And hopefully taking a day over to the ponds. Oh, nice. Our first day will be the 24th, January 24th. That's the hope. Our winter concert, again, we're having a virtual winter concert this year. We'll be sharing it with the school community, of course, but we're also holding a watch party via Zoom with families and staff to watch the concert for the first time together, to have some sense of community as we watch our kids, because they work so hard on it. You guys are doing something similar to Yep, on February 3rd, Grafton Elementary School will hold a virtual winter concert at 6 p.m. Families will join in virtually, and then later the video will be sent out to families. Our PTG is going to put together hot cocoa and chocolate spoons so that the kids can hopefully make their hot chocolate and then join in to watch the winter concert together. That's great. Next Tuesday is Professional Development Day for staff. The LD Elementary Schools will be completing our 4-day responsive classroom course. This has provided support for staff to create classroom communities and build a sense of belonging within the classroom and within the school. And then finally, we have our math testing, our measurement of academic progress testing that's taking place this month, both at Westminster and at Grafton. And this test is used to inform teachers and families of the amount of growth that their child has made since the fall. And just going back, we've had 20 confirmed cases of COVID-19 so far this year at GES. Any questions?
Angela, I missed the date of the measurement of academic process. When is progress?
We are at Grafton. We're doing it the week of the 24th, so we're going to start on the 25th. It's a Tuesday, and then Westminster. We're the week of the 24th. As well. You start on the 24th again. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
There's 2 things. One is, what's the date of the winter concert?
The 20th, next Thursday.
And then I'm curious about the homeschool numbers, because I am thinking right off of 3 kids that I know are homeschooled and are school age, and I just wonder, is there, and I suspect there's more than that I don't know. So you said there were 4, but I'm wondering, is that 4 who have officially registered, or how do you get those?
That 4 are families who are just who are just chose to homeschool this year due to COVID. So that does not count for our entire homeschool population. You're right. There's a larger number of homeschool children in our community, in that we then tuition in 7th and 8th, which we keep track of. But that 4 that I mentioned are just students that have gone in person, but then have chose to be homeschooled this year.
Makes much more sense.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
And maybe to clarify about that even further, which is really helpful, those who are officially homeschooling have to submit a curriculum, they have to be approved. And those are not the 4 that you're talking about who are choosing from home.
No, I believe they had to register with the state as well.
They did also?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good to know. So you're saying then in addition, there are more that are officially homeschooled?
Yes.
And we don't have a good number of those?
I'll have to check. It looks like we do have, they keep track of it with our middle school numbers, much like we keep track of our pre-K numbers. It's just a running document.
Right.
So we do have some idea of what to expect.
Okay. Thank you.
And just to clarify, that those are not the numbers that I reported. Our homeschool numbers that I reported are not due to COVID. Those are our homeschool numbers. Yeah.
Any other questions? Anybody? I actually have a couple. One is, since there had been some confusion, and some of it was mine, about how many kids we have tuitioning to a middle school, I'm wondering if this would be a good time to clarify what is the total number and if we have that stuff and where they are going. Is that something you can access, even just total numbers would be useful.
This year?
Yes.
And Jack, those will be reflected in the budget discussion.
Well, the reason is there may be some corrections. I want to get this, you know, and I think some of it was confusion that I
So
may
I have that while Liz is getting
Yes.
hers. So, not for this year, but for last year. Last year, there were 5 7th graders from Athens, 1 7th grader from Grafton, 2 8th graders from Athens, and 5 8th graders from Grafton. So the original numbers on that original invoice are just off by 1 for the 7th and 1 for the 8th. And then for this school year, who we're tuitioning for, our current invoice would be 4 7th graders from Athens, 1 7th grader from Grafton, 5 8th graders from Athens, and 1 8th grader from Grafton.
Thank you. I know that trying to get these numbers correct has been a little bit more challenging than perhaps any of us thought. Liz, are you close?
Yeah, so we have 19 7th graders right now and 33 8th graders right now
Okay.
that we're currently tuitioning.
All right. And do you know where they are going?
Yeah, so currently we have so there's about 35 7th and 8th graders at the middle school, Bellas Falls Middle School. There's 10 at Compass, and there's 7 at the grammar school.
Okay, just so that we have all those numbers.
Actually, as I scroll over, let me edit.
That's all right. That's
I need
why
to
we're doing
add
it.
4 to
That's why we're
that
doing
number. Yeah, because we have 2 at Putney Central and 2 at Brattleboro area middle school.
Thank you very much.
And Jack, the numbers that I just reported
Yeah.
are students that went to Bellows Falls Middle School.
Right.
So there's, because that was the invoice
Right.
from here, but there are Leland and Gray students, some Compass students, and then a grammar school.
That's actually important for Jack to hear, that we should be only citing middle school.
Right.
I was only citing middle school, yes.
And the main thing is that make sure that these voices are correct and that the total obligations for tuition are correct. These are the largest, you know, at 16,000 a pop, it takes a lot to throw the bottom line off, to throw off by 3 or 4. All right.
I have one more question.
Yeah,
When you're done, are you going to?
I am.
As you mentioned the training for responsive classroom, does that mean the idea of Wednesday afternoons off has been shelved? We're not going to go with that anymore?
Well, I believe it's still happening. I think that's something different that.
Yeah, so the early release on the Wednesdays is, it couples with the work that the elementary school teachers have already done with responsive classroom, but it's SU-wide, everyone is going to be working on social emotional learning, and we're going to be working with this restorative practice and the whatever, maybe anatomy. I can't think of the title of there. They're a group that works with restorative practices. Also, so they're going to be coming in and we're partnering with them and the training works in district and looking at the differences, because each school is at a different place and we want to bring them all along. So responsive classroom was something that was decided on last year to put in place. It's 4 full days of training. So this is the 4th day. And then, but then we're looking at doing, as it says, bringing everyone up to speed on sort of practices and sort of.
So the follow-up question was, we went over logistic details about childcare and transportation, but they all been solved?
Well, we had 8 families request, or, say they were interested, so we'll be building an afternoon for them, and
It's all taken care of.
yeah, it's in the works.
Great.
I don't think we have any solidified plans, and I will share when we have those, but
But I know the point was made last year, we didn't want to burden any parents anymore.
Right.
So we clear now that parents will not be burdened by this.
have the option.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Yes.
It's on the subject of responsive classroom for a minute, as we've been preparing to report to the town about what's going on here. Responsive classroom has been named. However, I'm aware that at least at the Westminster Center School, it's been used for a long time. And so this has been a re-emphasis with additional professional development this year. That's why we're not referring to it as something brand new.
Right.
Because it's really something many teachers here and other staff are familiar with. I hope that's accurate. That's my experience.
Yeah, it's been nice to have it this year because there is a good number of new staff. And while so many people are familiar with the concept or the philosophy, they've never done the official training. So it was really beneficial. But you're right, it's been around for years and many of the staff here are familiar with it already.
That all makes sense to me. I just didn't want people to think it was simply brand new. Thank you.
Okay, I've got a note saying that we're still not very clear.
Oh.
So,
I'm gonna see if I can shut this off slower. Is that, let me go find
Yeah.
somebody.
And it's occurred to me that we are missing 2 reports. One is we should always have as a standard item report from our SU reps, just to be clear of what we know, and we have some news from the SU. And also we should report on negotiations, and I may ask at the end of the director's comments that we spend 5 minutes and talk about that, and I'm hoping everyone will stick around for that, because we need to let you know where things are officially, and just we're always, our obligation is to solicit feedback, so we want to do that. So if we can take 20 minutes.
This is just a question, Jack, as this is we have meetings on the 2nd and the 4th.
Yeah.
Thursday. However, the first meeting is essentially optional and has been focused on budget. And we don't always ask the principals to come. This is kind of special to have them come tonight and to add their reports. It's on the 4th Thursday, but we do that whole suite of regular reports. At least that's my understanding. So
Well,
just ask.
I guess I'm perfectly willing to put off the negotiations one, but I think that since the SU made a hiring recommendation, we ought to at least let people officially know about that.
That's fine. I'm just saying that
Yeah,
that's why it's not here.
We'll keep it tight.
Yeah.
All right. With that, we have 3 members here that were at the SU last night, and if anyone would like to share a personnel decision.
Well, I'm certainly happy to do so. It's a
Okay.
and then you can add in the supervisory union board unanimously approved the recommendation to hire Andy Haas as the superintendent, no longer interim superintendent, and to offer him a 3-year contract, which will be negotiated by the current chair of the supervisory union board, being Jessica Westcott. Jessica can actually do a better job than I of making this report, but since I'm in the room, I just did so.
Jessica, do you have anything to add to this?
No, that is quite all right. Cheryl can do it quite capably.
All right. Well, then we'll hold off on the negotiation stuff. There is we will need to inform people prior to some meetings that will be happening beginning February 2nd. We can put that off till then. I just wanted to make certain that we didn't look like we were avoiding talking about that.
Congratulations, Andy. I guess.
Thank you. That's what we, we weren't sure if it was my sympathies or congratulations was in order. All right, moving on, and I think we covered this to some extent, but let's cover some more under 5A COVID protocol updates. And I'm wondering if anyone would like to talk in more detail about that. Andy, because you've been on the receiving end in more ways than one from the AOE, is this something you want to talk about or are willing to talk about?
Yeah, so on last Friday, the Secretary of Education gave out a sneak peek of what he refers to as a pivot in the approach to addressing COVID. And so I'm going to try and pull it up here real quick just so I can quote things. So the, let me make sure I have the actual. So I think the highlights, as I'm pulling this up, is that what the AOE is now recommending is that we stop surveillance testing, the PCR surveillance, the weekly PCR surveillance testing. And they are also advising us to halt tracing of individuals. And what that would mean is also a halt to our test to stay program, which is what we've been using for students who have been considered a close contact and then they're unvaccinated and it's a way for them to continue to attend school. And the pivot is to allow us to provide families with the test, and families would do the testing, and then as long as the student was negative on the test, they could attend school on a close contact. So basically the pivot is away from the schools bearing the responsibility of the of doing the testing and doing the contact tracing and putting that onus more on parents. So I think that's encapsulates it. There's some flex on can we continue things, and what we're still trying to figure out, and I just spoke with Rebecca Stockwell, our COVID coordinator, this morning. We're still trying to get answers on if we continue to do PCR testing because we're allowed to, there's some verbiage that we could be allowed to do it. Will the state still be sending us the tests? Will the state still be picking up the cost of transport of mailing the tests in? And so that's some of the thing that we're trying to, we still need to weigh out. The other piece is if we continue to use some type of test to stay protocol, is there enough supply stock that we could even get a hold of if we wanted, if the state doesn't have them available, can we even get them? So that's some of the stuff we're trying to figure out. We did get an email today. We're supposed to get a shipment tomorrow, but that's kind of how it happens is we get these, like you're going to get a shipment tomorrow, and it's sometimes we don't know how many we're going to get, but we're supposed to be getting some rapid antigen tests, and they're supposed to be coming tomorrow, and all it says is it could be a large scale delivery next week also. So it's fluid at the state level, which is frustrating, to be frank. I understand. I mean, it's difficult. They're trying to figure it all out also. I think the other piece, and I know Desi's here, but and could, I think the other part is with the shift away from the close contact is that the nurses would not have to put that information into the state database. So one of the things that the nurses do is when they hear of a close contact, you know, they contact that parent, or if it's an elementary school, you know, and they talk it through and they try and figure out where, you know, who is a close contact, and then they have to go in and they have to enter all that into the state database, and it's tight, you know, quite time consuming. And so it's really kind of doing that. I mean, I see Desi's got her hand up, so I'll stop bumbling through this, Desi, and let the expert talk.
So basically now we're still contact tracing, but it's different. So before we had to put all our contacts who were a close contact to the positive individual into this template and send it to the state. That's the only thing that was eliminated. So now if there's a close contact in a classroom, it's easier in elementary school because all our classes are potted. So if there's a positive in the classroom, then the whole classroom is considered a close contact. And then I have to now, with vaccinated students, sort out who gets what tests, who tests when. So it's a little bit different, and it's still time consuming, but we just want to make sure that everyone's safe, everyone gets tested, and everyone isn't testing positive. In the high school and middle school level, it's a lot more complicated because those students, they travel to different classrooms all the time. So it's really following the track of the student, where they were, who they were around. So basically, we're still contact tracing, but the state is just saying we don't officially have to send them the documentation of it.
Yes, why don't we start?
I just wanted to add something that I think is important, and that's that the PCR tests were originally the better test to use, and it feels a little confusing going to the antigen tests. There's a reason for that that's really well informed though, and that's that if you've tested positive once, every time you take a PCR, it's gonna come back positive because you have the antibodies in your body. So the state's switching to the antigen test because it gives a more accurate picture about what's happening now in the human body.
Yes, go ahead.
I think it'd be worth saying a little bit about families, because there's a lot more burden on families to do the testing, about how they get the tests directly from the state, through the schools, and so on. What can you say about that?
So again, that's been a moving target a little bit. Originally, in the initial email on Friday, it was that they encouraged families to seek their own, and then if they couldn't find them, they could come back to the school. That has now moved a little bit to the school, as Desi was just kind of saying, is once they determine who is a close contact, is essentially handing them, here's the test. And that's where our real concern is that we could be out of antigen tests in a week or two of what the supply we currently have. So the goal is we're trying to meet tomorrow, and if not tomorrow, we'll meet on Tuesday during that professional development day with the nurses and really sort out all of this. Where are we? What do we got for supplies? What do we have for a pipeline to get supplies? Because one of the things I don't want to do is put a program in place and then have to go, oh, April Fools, you know, and we can't do this. And so, because that is going to be even more frustrating in that sense. I think I see Jessica's got her hand raised, but just one more thing on the PCR test. The other piece of it, what they've told us, is the turnaround time on once you test and when we get the results back, it was like 24 hours. It was really good. And it's starting to lag more. And so therefore, by the time we might be getting back the PCR test saying this person's positive, their 5-day window might already be over. And so I think that was part of that shift also away from the PCR test. But I know Jessup is not my meeting. So.
Yeah, Jessup.
I just wanted to expand on what Melissa said. So the PCR test is not an antibody test. It actually looks for the genetic material from the virus itself. But the state of Vermont, I don't think has been very clear in their messaging. the PCR tests are not as valuable in our schools simply because the turnaround is getting longer. And that's because Vermont has been unable to put together a lab to turn them around quickly. So it's a little unfortunate that they're calling them less valuable because they are a higher standard of testing. They are more accurate than the rapid antigen test or the LAMP test, but they can't keep up. I wish they'd own up to that a little bit more in the news.
Thank you. I also just want to touch on this because I just had to write a white paper on it, which I finished yesterday. And a PCR test basically multiplies the shell of the virus when it finds it present to the point where it can be tested. Basically, it's a polymer chain antibody replication test. There we go, PCR, and so it literally can find any evidence of virus in the system. The antigen test assumes that there's enough antigen in enough quantity the body can respond to it. What does that mean in real terms? It means that the rapid antigen test is usually a full day to 48 hours behind in terms of being able to sense virus in the body. So you can be theoretically contagious but not symptomatic and pass your rapid antigen test with flying colors, and that's a problem with them. Also, the PCR holds to a CDC standard, and the rapid antigen test vary a lot in quality by maker. Abbott's are considered the best, but that's just my opinion because I wrote it down in the paper. The thing that was ironic to me is that you could go 5 miles north of the Canadian border, and literally there are schools that test everybody every day. My very well-meaning Korean in-laws sent another note to my daughter-in-law saying, gee, is there anything they can do to help poor Americans who can't seem to get their act together and have enough tests for everybody, which I find, embarrassing in the extreme. I am wondering if we need to go as far as to appeal to the community if they have tests to get them to us. Are we at that level?
I don't think so. We got a delivery of some tests today because that's what Rebecca was picking up when I spoke with her. And as I said, it looks like we've got tests coming in, and those are slated specifically for this to pass out. I think it's really going to be a matter of us just trying to figure out how many we think we need, and then also knowing what's the return, like, does the state have a plan for every 2 weeks we're going to get a lot of, orders or something like that. That's what we just don't know right now. And Rebecca has been, she is like a pit bull with the state. And I mean, when we started with this whole thing, like when we went to test the state, she was like, with the state, and the state's like, we don't have answers. She's like, I want answers. I want this, because she wanted to launch it. And so she's on them, and they kind of turn around and get the answers for her. So I'm hopeful that, in the next couple of days, we'll have some better answers on where we are.
My concern is that if the state thing breaks down, we're going to end up being in the same situation we were in last year, where we end up closing schools because we need a break for a week.
Well, so let me get, if I can speak to that, just what we have been told by the secretary is that the only, so school is closed or school is open. There is no such thing as remote learning. So therefore, if we decide to close a school because of, for whatever reason, school is closed. So we've continued earlier offering remote learning and doing those things because we value education. And so even it's not the best education, but we continue doing that. If we have to close for a COVID related, where our student population dips below 51%, because that would be not considered a school day, he will allow some forgiveness because of that for COVID reasons. If we had to close because our teaching population was at a point that we couldn't safely operate our buildings, he would consider that for a waiver. If we close preemptively, he would not look favorably upon that. So, and I got a lot of queries over our last holiday break saying, you know, can we close for 2 weeks? And that was the reason why we did not close, because we would be here in sometime in July at this point.
Thank you.
So,
I see questions, Charlie, and then Cheryl.
I'm just interested in how this sending the tests home is going to work. Let's suppose, in the situation you just described, Hetty, a class is considered close contact. You send 20 tests home, and you get 5 of them back.
we don't get them back. So
Oh,
that's,
well, you get 5 responses. 5 people say we did it.
nope,
We're not asked. We're not.
You don't get any information about what happens to those tests at all?
no. So it's all on the honor system.
So there's no ability to really rationally plan, because you just have to hope for the best, which seems like what I said last night, that it felt like wishful ignorance.
It's not only on the honor system, it's also on the hope to God that people communicate promptly, which
I just see people, I see the nurses calling up people to follow up, and that becoming just a big pain in the neck if the other was.
So I by no means have this figured out, but let me make a couple of comments about it. This topic would have been on the agenda no matter what. I particularly pushed for it to be on the agenda because of my concern about the Agency of Education's proclamation last Friday that these changes would occur on a Friday afternoon, saying we're going to change a system that, in my view, has been working pretty well because of the leadership of the principals, the school nurses, and everybody in our school community. What this shift does is bring so much uncertainty and confusion back into the school climate. It puts undue burdens, I think, on families. It's confusing to them to try to figure out how to get a test. Am I really going to get it? How do I obtain it? And we had a system that was working pretty well. I'll say that again. We have, for the last several months, been pushing to get people to sign up for Test to Stay and to sign up for surveillance testing. And to one of your points to me, when I asked you, Liz, the surveillance testing has really helped us identify people who are not symptomatic, but who are carrying the virus into the school climate. We have the opportunity as a local school district. This is the Union Elementary. This is the Union Elementary that has this opportunity now within the supervisory union, as do all of the other districts, to actually maintain, if we can get the supplies, and if it's not too much burden on the nurses and the system here, we can continue our more vigilant approach. That's my personal suggestion, that we strongly consider it. I want to minimize confusion for families. I want to enhance everybody's safety. And I want to reduce the stress for teachers and staff who are now being faced with a lot more uncertainty than there was before. I'm open to discussion, but that's where I am on this particular. For me, who is usually so mild-mannered, I am pretty upset that the state did this.
Go ahead.
I guess I would just, and I hear the passion and I understand the frustration. I would like to be able to meet with our health staff and try and develop something that could be applied universally across the SU, because we would run into a huge inequity if we decided like we were going to put all of our eggs into Westminster, into Grafton, and then we ran out of supplies somewhere else, or where our budgets would be and stuff of that nature. And I think that, you know, just the conversations I've had with our school nurses and with our principals, that there are differing opinions, and it depends on the buildings. Like our middle school, it's a huge burden. The high school, the contact tracing is really, really challenging. And so we may need to have some tiered approaches But if we can put something together, and I also don't want Westminster or the elementary, the Union Elementary, to put themselves in a situation where they say, we're going to keep doing this, and then we can't. But, you know, I think we want to continue to provide that support for families. I agree, it is extremely confusing. I mean, we've got something on athletics today that is kind of similar, like, but it's not 100%. And so it's just like, you know, so.
Go ahead.
I guess I would suggest in the meetings that you have that perhaps you consider, all the schools consider keeping up the surveillance testing, for instance, and or something where there's a little bit more monitoring than we simply get throwing it out to the public at large and hoping that tests actually happen and are available. I know, I mean, and probably we've all experienced this, it is not easy to get antigen tests right now, and you wait in a line for a couple of hours, or you miss it because the line was used up 10 minutes before it was open, you know. So if you've driven to Dummerston or to Brattleboro. So some kind of combination might be well worth.
Yeah.
I want to get to Jessa, and I want to suggest something. Jessa?
Hi. I don't know, Andy might have to look this up. What is the participation rate in each of the schools for the surveillance testing? And then I fully support surveillance testing. I've been stuck doing it for, I don't even know how long now, a year and a half or 2.5, whatever it is. I think the problem we're going to run into is the same with the waiting on the turnaround time. It really is no good if it's a 5-day turnaround. It's absolutely useless at that point. I know Chris in 2020, Chris Pratt, I gave the contact information, and I think he actually started talking to the Broad Institute, who, it's a coalition in Massachusetts, but they got the contract for all the statewide K-12 testing. And it's apparently not who Vermont's using, because their turnaround is much faster, even if you have to mail them to Boston. So I don't know the current surveillance testing program, because there's no express line for the schools. We're just in whatever labs the state's using. We can't continue that program as is. I don't know if we want to look at another one or not. If we do want to continue to offer that for families, I guess it would depend a little bit on the participation rate. And then my other question, I guess, is more for Desi, but the state has said that the parents need to report their child's antigen test every day. Are we going to barcode, Sharpie marker, or something, the tests, number them by day, and require the parent to provide either the test when they drop the kid off or a picture of it to validate it? Because there is concerns in the community of just having a parent call and say, oh no, my kid's negative. So what are we going to do with that?
So I agree. I have been emphasizing with parents that it's really important for the whole school community that they test their child if they were a close contact. We had to do, I had to hand out tests today. So I learned of the positive last night. We contacted families. And since I was at home and I wasn't going to go to school and meet everyone last night at 8 o'clock to send out the tests, I tested the kids this morning, which went fabulous, like always. The parents are trained well to, if they bring their kids to school, they park in the parking lot, they come in, they get tested, they sit and they wait. And then I sent home with the students today the boxes and the amount of tests that they would need for the rest of the 5 days with directions. And I put the days on this direction sheet that I created. You're going to test on these days. But there is no system that the state has told us that that they are required to report the test results to us, which is worrisome to me, but I want to have faith in our families that they are caring about the greater good and the entire GES community, because one student just doesn't affect one family. It's one student affects all of us. So that's one wish that I really hope that I'm portraying to the families, that they really understand that COVID doesn't affect just them. It affects everybody in the school building and everyone that's at home with the students that leave the school during at the end of the day.
I'm going to speak a little bit on this. Funny thing, you know that Westminster, Vermont was not part of either New York or New Hampshire. It was not part of the big fight between the two states. It was actually a colony of Massachusetts, and I'm perfectly willing to go contact those folks in Massachusetts. I deal with the Broad Institute on a semi-regular basis, and if this board thought that we should initiate a conversation and we had to go pay for getting tests done, I'd not be opposed to that. Andy, I understand the point about equity, I really do, but equity can't be vetoed by people that don't want to spend the money to run the program. And I'm not going to speak for everybody because we haven't had a vote, but if I were voting to spend money to get tests or spending money to go find somebody that either at Dartmouth or at Broad or somewhere that would turn these suckers around in 24 hours, that feels like the best money we could spend. I would certainly, if we get down to if you had numbers to what it would cost, we could have a meeting and do a formal authorization of that, but I feel that this is not something I want to pinch pennies on. I want to get it done right, because while I'm not as passionate as Cheryl is, I'm a close second in believing that test to stay was the first rational thing we've done to handle COVID outbreak in a year and a half, and I'm not willing to break it if we can find a way not to.
So we're different types of tests, so I
Yeah,
just want
I
to be
hear you.
clear, right? So the PCR surveillance testing is one, and then the test to stay program is a whole nother program. Right. And so it would be, what I don't have, and like what Jessa was asking, is how many people participate in the surveillance. I'd have to go pull those numbers.
Yeah.
Westminster is probably the largest participant by student and faculty participation.
And I can speak to that. I just looked at my numbers. We have 94 students participate every week and 50 staff members. So 60% of our student population, and I'm thinking 100% of our staff population.
I do want to make calls to whoever's missing out in Athens and Grafton.
And then
and just to add to that point, I mean, that is really huge commitment on the part of this community. Part of the reason I emphasize how disruptive this is and how confusing this is.
Yeah, no, and I knew that going into it, and this community is kind of jumped in and really taken, whereas other communities just haven't.
And I just want to mention too, the added bonus of it too is for students who are out because they have symptoms, they have a place they can do our drive-through, which has been really successful and really a relief for parents to know that they can get a PCR test somewhere, and it's they'll know-ish when the results are going to come in, where other places the PCR test may take a week or something, take really long time, but they can just drive through.
If they can even get an appointment.
So that is part of the state's plan, is that we can use our PCR test to continue to provide those. The shift was that we would give it to the parent to do the testing and then mail it out. This is my opinion. I haven't seen it, or it hasn't been said. I speculate that there is a cost piece of this, for a statewide program for both of these. It's got to be very costly. And then I think there's just the look on the horizon of the lack of supply, you know, and being able to get your hands on it. And so the state is now in some ways pivoting. And I've talked to some medical professionals who feel that there's almost this desire to have it kind of burn itself out kind of thing. So if we can let it plateau, you know, we're not going to need it anymore.
I know.
And I'm not saying the medical professionals were agreeing with that. That's their speculation of the pivot. So I mean, we would definitely need to look at what those costs would be to do it. You know,
But just be aware that there's that unless the price tag is, you know, completely insane, and maybe even just a little insane, you'd be interested in hearing about it. All right.
I'm curious about how the teachers feel about the new idea, because one of the big pieces that affects school climate is teachers and staff anxiety and stuff like that. So that for me would be a consideration in how to move forward as well in protecting our school climate and culture in that regard.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Melissa, because there's been very few perks over the past few years teaching in this state. And having the weekly surveillance testing has been a perk to our staff because they feel like they take the test on Tuesday, they would get the results by Thursday, they feel like, oh, I can go see, take care of an elderly parent, or I feel like I feel clear to do my plans for the weekend rather than feeling unknown. So that has definitely been a perk. And people were like, this week when it was our last go around, the feedback was, is this the last time? Oh, why are they ending this? It was kind of a common, and it is the increase of stress with the change of plans, because our test to stay was a routine. People knew it, families knew it, students knew. So now it's a little bit more cumbersome, and even the way we responded to our positive case yesterday was different than how we responded today due to our materials and how many tests we had to give out. Yesterday we were giving out stacks of tests to students, and today we didn't have enough to give out, so we had to pivot within the materials we had. And so we had extra test to stay tests that weren't expired, so we were going to use those this week and then give the take-home test. It just throws a level of stress that feels unneeded because we had something that was working, and we haven't seen, while we have had 34 cases, we haven't seen a lot of spread within the school. So a lot of our cases most of our cases are not related to each other. So that's interesting to feel like we are doing something right. We are monitoring this and responding to this correctly. So it's disappointing.
Mm-hmm. And then my other question would be, so what would it look different if you guys offered like a 15-minute early drop-off possibly to allow for the close contacts to be tested, like a drive-through style, or actually that's hard with a bus too, right?
Yeah.
There's so many variables. I was just trying to think of a compromise, you know, between like where the nurses could administer the test for close contacts. Because I'm thinking one of the dilemmas, like I just got a whole bunch of boxes because my kid's in that class, and I didn't choose test to stay, and that's okay, but I want everybody to feel comfortable and safe coming to school. But if he was to test positive on one of those, we then have 3 extra that we wouldn't use, right? So maybe sending them home each day, but I don't know how much work that would be for people to have to do that every single day as opposed to just like once, but if we're trying to conserve tests.
And they're 2 to a box too. That was the other thing, is that you're supposed to give them for enough 5 days, but there's 2 to a box.
Yeah.
So the math doesn't add up. And
But you don't have to give them all the first day, even though it's probably easier to, right? I'm just trying to think of how to conserve tests so that we have resources for
And
everyone.
we were also thinking of separating them and putting, like you did, and putting this, yeah, we haven't done that yet. So yeah, it's not, we don't have a system that is working, like that is the way we should do it. So I'd like that feedback of.
I want to get to Jessa, and then we'll continue this. This is a good conversation. Jessa?
Yeah, so I'm actually was just reading an email that I just got from my employer about our campus. But my first comment was, I don't know what sort of volume discount we got, probably a lot. But initially, UMass was sending tests to the Broad Institute, and I think we were paying around $25 a piece, which is actually a fantastic deal. So the cost definitely adds up fast when you're doing like 100 a day, which is, I think, what it would work out to be between Westminster and Grafton. So there's that. And then reading through the email I got, our first staff member on campus died from COVID just last week, but we are no longer allowing 2-ply cloth masks. And I'm wondering, I know the CDC is recommending high quality masks, and the Biden administration is trying to get hold of those. But do we have plans to require a surgical mask if you have a 2-ply cloth with a surgical mask underneath? Or the state also made vague reference to maybe trying to provide masks at some point. Do we have any plans to change our policy of the quality of masks that are used?
So again, we have a scheduled meeting, and so that's part of our meeting is how are we going to pivot with all of these changes. As the CDC started saying, you should have an N95 or whatever mask, I started getting flooded with emails of, are we going to be providing those to teachers? Are we providing those to students? And so, again, it comes down to, are we going to, if we're going to supply them, do we have enough? When the state has provided them in the past, you get a couple boxes of it, and that's not going to last you that long. And so I think it really comes down to, what's reasonable. That's the other piece that we have to, like, what can we provide? And then also what is reasonable to ask families to, to provide. Always provided paper masks. Every building has them, so if a student forgets them or whatnot. If we're going to require a doubling up, I think that's a conversation we need to have of what is our needs. I mean, it's we do have considerable ESSER funds, so I'm not really worried about.
Well, so there's an interesting twist to that, because I just imported some pediatric N95s from a country where they're approved, because in the US, the FDA granted an emergency authorization for pediatric N95s, I think in 2020, that has since expired. So technically there are no N95 masks for children. There are KN95s and KF94s available from South Korea and China. So what does the state have to say about that, I guess, while you're querying them as well?
I will ask that question, Jessa. We'll keep up our reputation as being the fastest district in the state of Vermont, and I think that's important.
One thing I would add to this wonderful discussion, and thank everybody, is if there's a way, even, I know you're talking with the nurses and more will come from this, but if we could keep some stability, if we could provide surveillance testing again next week, if we could have it continue until a resolution is solved, rather than disrupting it, I believe that would be a very healthy decision to make.
All right, I'm declaring without objection, I hope that we have beaten this particular horse as far into the ground as we can. I think it's an important discussion. I think Andy's gotten some guidance as to how this community feels, or these communities feel.
Jack, could I just answer Jessa's question?
Sure.
Jessa, you had asked how many students are signed up for surveillance testing, and 28 students at Grafton are signed up out of 44, and all of our staff.
All of the staff, yeah. I do just want to add that, so the N95s that we wear in healthcare and EMS are the kind that have the 2 straps that go around your head. The KN95s that most people wear, like when they're wearing an N95 at work, like I do, to make them tight, they're uncomfortable, especially if you wear glasses. I actually got home tonight. I've been getting headaches. It's going to be it's going to be hard on the kids. It's much harder than wearing a surgical mask or even a surgical mask with a cloth mask on top of it. I've been doing it for quite some time, and it's going to be harder on these kids and staff. And I just think we should just make sure that that's out there too, because they're the KN95s, especially the vertical fold ones. They're tight, obviously, because they have to be tight. You can't have any gaps on your face. So pretty much it's tight by pulling on your ears. And I do think that we need to consider that it's going to be a little bit harder on the kids. And I think they're going to have a rougher time in the next couple months than they have in the last year.
Thank you for that. Desiree, I see your hand up.
I just wanted to give a reminder that actual medical N95s you have to be fit tested for them to actually be effective. You have to wear a certain size for your face, or it's not gonna be beneficial at all. And with the KN95s, you don't have to be fit tested, and they're a little bit more comfortable. Some students already wear some, which I've thought was really nice that parents are already sending kids in with the KN95s. And a lot of students actually, their cloth masks get wet really easily, especially now in the winter time. So I am giving out a lot of paper masks to students every day.
Yeah, I've been fitted for a couple of 3M N95s, and I actually find them far more comfortable because you have two straps around your head, as opposed to the ear loops.
I think we lost you, Justin, briefly.
No, I'm still here. I was just saying that the medical N95s that you are fit tested for, I actually find them more comfortable, even though they leave marks on your face and all that. The KN95s with the ear loops they've been wearing on me the last week or two. That's what I wear during the day. And especially if you have glasses. I just wanted to point it out that the next couple months are going to be a little bit challenging for our kids. I'm a seasoned adult and I'm struggling with it. So I can't imagine how 6-year-olds are feeling right now.
I think it's a good point. As a person with lung disease, I can tell you that this guy drops my SATs down to about 91, which is sort of borderline unsafe, and I get it. So conversation drifts, that's because I'm hypoxic. But I do think that we do need to be bearing in mind also special needs kids, especially asthmatics and stuff. I don't know how we make accommodations for that, but I know that that's a real issue. Guys, I am gonna ask, because we've got a budget to do, that we continue this on probably in our next meeting. I'm glad we had the discussion nonetheless, because it's probably as important as anything we were talking about tonight. With that in mind, nonetheless, I'm going to move to, without objection, to 5B, facilities, and ask who's got that.
I wanted to give an update on the Westminster heating project that you supported. We completed the wood chip boiler, the actuator in the wood chip boiler. That job is complete. The injector pump is complete. And the main valve of the heating coil in the dining room, that is complete. And the Univent unit in the pre-K classroom is complete. What project is not complete are the 2 pumps in the boiler. We were looking to replace one of them, and that order was 6 months out. So we were working with Alliance, our preventative maintenance company, and they are doing some legwork to secure funds through Vermont Efficiency so that we could replace the whole portion with, replace the 2 existing pumps with smart pumps they have sensors in the pump to only use the energy it needs at that moment on demand, like as the temperature in the building needs. And so then those pumps would be funded through Vermont Efficiency or through ESSER, depending if the Vermont Efficiency grant doesn't align with that project. So what I wanted to ask the board, I'm not sure if this is an ask or just an informing you that instead of replacing those two pumps, because they'll be funded through Vermont Efficiency, we'll need a reseal kit, which is around $1,200, to reseal the pump that is currently leaking. And then we are wanting to replace the air handler unit in the gym, because currently we cannot control the temperature in the gym. So if we don't run the current air handler unit, there will be no ventilation in the gym. If we run the air handler unit, there is no control of the temperature. So it's roughly 80 degrees in the gym. Yeah, I know, it's gross. So.
And this is a problem?
Yeah,
This
I know.
time of year, why?
I know kids are like dripping. So what I'm asking of the board is that instead of using the funds to replace the pumps, because those pumps are going to be funded through Vermont Efficiency, if I can use those funds to do a reseal kit and fix the air handler unit in the gym.
My question to Andy is, do you need a formal board authorization for Efficiency Vermont?
I don't believe so. I just, the question of whether it's Vermont Efficiency or ESSER is really timeliness. We're going to move faster.
I'm just, the reason I'm asking is sometimes I've found that these agencies like an official authorization. Do you need any of that? Or is that
So I'd have to go back and research that, Jeff, to fully,
right.
but I don't believe so.
All right. Is there any objection to this from anyone? Then Quaker meeting style, I think you have your authorization.
Thank you.
Oh, did I misspeak?
Oh, no, I thumbs up.
Oh, okay,
okay.
All right, just want to make sure, don't want to assume anything on behalf of my folks here. All right, now to the fun part of the evening, budget report and discussion. Yay, who's got that?
Who wants to go first?
So
Go alphabetical or?
I mean, I didn't really change anything on the budget that I've been presenting since the fall. I think I just clarified, and I did find the answer to your utilities line. Remember, it looked like an added line. That was because, so I took it out because it was a duplicate of the utilities that are already in my budget.
Okay.
This fall, when we paid an electric bill, that was coded in utilities rather than coded to my electricity line. So right now it looks like utilities, my current budget report looks like negative $32,000. It's only because it wasn't taken out of the correct line. And so when it was duplicated. So that has been corrected.
So Liz and I met, and we did go through quite a few of those things, and I'm just going to try and make this a little bigger for folks, maybe for myself, because I can't see it very well. See if I can get this. Yeah. So when we went through it and kind of caught some of those things, and that's where try and find them. Yeah, where is it?
5411.
Oh, yeah, so right here, in this line, right here, yeah, I can highlight it, there we go. So that line originally had $40,000 in it, and really, and then this line also had $35,000 in it. And so what had happened last year, or it was coded to the wrong line, and then the lines carried over at the initial presentation. And so that was one of the ones that we found and to address. And then also what I had mentioned to Cheryl just before the meeting started, one of the big things was up here in the salary line, the para-educators was quite high. I think it was $112,000 or $115,000. That was actually, again, I think the previous administration thought that Mentionist actually came out of that line, that we pay, that we do a contracted service with HCRS for that. And so it was, they were putting monies in that line to cover it, but then there's monies here, Josh. There's monies down in the miscellaneous for EST 504 services, and that's where that typically lives, right here, this 504 services. And so basically what we had was a doubling of that. And so we went through and tried to really clean that up. One of the other things I really went through is what I had done also with the SU board, or SU budget, was go through the health insurance benefits and really try and clean them up and find where the truths are. And so some of things that came out were like just, right here, just a line I'm picking up is this FICA line, which is the principal's office, but you see that what was approved last year was $10,000, and what's an actual is about $7,000. So it's finding those little dollars here and there. Sometimes they go up, sometimes they go down a little bit, but trying to make them true. And then like this LTD, which is the long-term life insurance. No, what is LTD?
Long-term disability.
Yeah, long-term disability. In almost every budget I've gone into, that is underfunded. And so really trying to find those. Another one is here with regular education. There's not a huge difference, but it's really accurate to what that is.
And workman's comp too has changed.
Workman's comp was way underfunded. It was drastically underfunded, and that kind of, like, that's why I went in and started, like, when I started playing with this, I was like, ooh, and how I'll stop with my thoughts. But I think one of the other things we did was look to really look at our salary lines to make sure, they do represent the increases that we have, that we know are there. One of the things Liz and I had a conversation about is this, there was this money in there for early outreach para, and then there was money in there for kindergarten outreach. And we went back and looked, and that hadn't hit a line in a few years, but we wanted to keep one of them because there is some value in having that outreach and trying to have that. And then also looked at some level funding, with substitutes and stuff like that. The one other change that I looked to do, and this one's not showing yet. Huh. Hang on. It's in your packet. Let me try and pull up. Oh, interesting. So in the packet for Westminster, I'll have to find it. So indulge me, is Ricky and I really went and looked at the technology line, and one of his persons is split out throughout the district, and so there's a portion because we haven't moved that person to the SU. And so in the past, Westminster was carrying 40% of that person's budget, and Grafton was carrying 0%.
I like that. What's wrong with that? Nothing wrong with that. So we really looked at how much that person's working out there and doing the adjustment. It came out to a 30-10 of the 40%. So we did reduce that down in that line. So it's actually 15,000, not 22. I don't know why it didn't save it for me. So that's
yeah, that is near the bottom of the technology.
So that is here. So so I'll pull that one up here. So that's right here on page 1, right here on looking at that. So that's where some of those different savings were. I'm just kind of going in and trimming a little bit. From what you originally were given, I've gone in and addressed the assessment piece for Westminster and adjusted that down. So that's on the very last page of the handout. And so the total requested budget for Westminster is $3,347,003.46. And then with the assessments, it's $4,538,770,031.
And I know on Monday, at the budget meeting, the SU budget meeting, the Westminster assessment at that point was 921,000 or something, but what this 891,000 was approved last night? That's,
yes, this is
so that's the final.
This is reflecting what was approved last night.
Right, so that's fine, okay.
Go ahead,
Go
guys.
ahead, Charlie.
It's just a general question, and I don't want to, it doesn't need to be a long answer, but there are lots of items that are the same and lots of items that are very different. Can we assume that for the most part, where there's a big difference, it's because of an accounting error or misapportionment in the part, as opposed to a change in program offerings or a change in need? So are there any where there are dramatic changes in need that, or services or whatever, that would reflect an actual choice that we made?
So one,
To provide less of
one
something or
being
more of
that we
something?
are asking for the librarian to be a full-time position opposed to a 0.8. So that would be one change. Everything else just reflects a realistic amount it costs to run the building for the school year.
Basically, it's sort of status quo but with inflation or whatever, but so no major changes to the elective element to this budget.
I mean, I feel one of the benefits of having this really terrible audit report is that there's been an awful lot of attention put towards the budget. And,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of messiness that has been cleaned up that we were sailing along with for a few years, where we were double budgeting things or not paying attention to what workers' comp actually was, but just throwing in figures because that's what it was previous year or that kind of thing. And I feel pretty good about how much attention has been put into this and how much has been cleaned up over previous years.
Yeah, one of the things, the approach I like to take is to really look at the different lines as opposed to looking at the bottom line, right? Because if you look at the bottom line, you can hide things. And I don't mean always that's malice. I mean, it's just if you're under in workman's comp, but you over budgeted somewhere else in the end, you kind of come out in the end, so you don't worry about it. But if you're really trying to know where your costs are, you got to look at each line and try and get them as tight as possible. So
We have, this is Westminster's budget, not mine. With that said, this is more evidence of the transparency that we intended to put in. It was a real goal of this process beginning actually into last year, saying that we must show what the real costs are, not just what's assessed to the taxpayers. And we must really be sure that the costs that we're estimating are based on actual needs. And I think we, hesitate to speak too prematurely on this, but it sure looks like we've crossed that threshold, perhaps first time in a very long time, if ever. And I think it's useful for folks, all the budget hawks that think that we're spending a lot more money than we report and be validated. Yes, we are. But on the other hand, where the money is being spent. You know that in fact that people have been diligent about how expenses are managed. Can see at a point now where somebody that's reasonable with a spreadsheet can figure out how we're paying for the people that we're paying for, why we're doing it, and where the money goes with a level of precision that people expect in town budgets, but haven't seen in school budgets in kind of a long time. And I appreciate everybody, the work that they've done. It's really extraordinary, and thank you all for it.
And just, it is about a 9.8% decrease.
Decrease,
Decrease.
I know that.
So,
So, if I can just add to that, thank you, Andy. Many of us have spent a lot of time on this budget, as well as the SU budget, as well as the union budget over the last many months. Really, as a part of the process of trying to figure out what's been going on here. So having said all of that, you've just heard some of the improvements that Andy and team have been able to bring to this to reduce costs in those areas that were erroneously inflated, like health insurance. That would be an example of that, where those numbers have come down. As I've looked through it all, this $4.5 million budget approximately is tight and is good, and I know Liz has worked really hard on it. Again, for everybody's sake, this is Westminster. We look forward to helping with Grafton and Athens as well. I am still uncomfortable with the level for tuition reimbursement put in for 7th and 8th grade. And I say that because looking through all these numbers closely over the last actually 4 months in particular, in the 2021 budget, we actually had for Westminster about 65 students in that category, 65. We are currently in this budget at 55. You have this budget at 48, 49, not quite 50. I would like to add $80,000 to bring it up to the current 55 number of 7th and 8th grade students, just to kind of be safe, to be at that level. David and I were both on the Westminster board when we had a serious underestimate one year and had these additional tuition costs that we had not anticipated. So I think it's prudent to stay at the same level that we are right now. If we add $80,000 to the budget, that brings us up to $4,618,770. And that is in contrast with the current 22 budget of $5,167,960. So we're still under. We can safely say that even with a 6% increase in health insurance, even with some increases built in for personnel, even with some, those are the main categories where those increases occur, we're still going to take to the taxpayers from Westminster a lower budget than they were responsible for as part of the current union budget.
All right.
I think that's a really wise idea. And adding the $80,000 to have as a cushion. I also have a question though about the procedure here. Usually, especially with, we're operating as kind of two boards in one, and or something like that. And and usually, you make a motion to approve the budget, discussion, and then you amend it and approve it or not. What are we doing tonight? Are we going through both budgets and then moving to approve them, or are we just going to? Should I make a motion now for the Westminster board to approve this one with an $80,000 increase for extra 7th and 8th graders? How might you chairs?
Let's see what our opinions are about this process.
All right, this should be fun. I asked Ollie about this back when we were originally separated and got a punted football for it. And his suggestion was that why don't both boards approve it, since it would be no skin off the nose of the unified district budget, it won't be their money, and it clears up the question of whether or not the Westminster folks really have the authority to approve a budget. So my recommendation here is that you the Westminster folks vote your budget, and that we, the unified district, vote to ratify and recommend that budget, and that way we've got it covered. So that's my recommendation. That way, nobody's going to attack this as improperly warned, which I think is a big concern. But I see a question
I
about
don't have a
that.
question on the way we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
If you still have something about the way. No, okay, I was just thinking that, I also think it's a wise idea, and I'm wondering if we should put more in. And I'm wondering that because with COVID, our kids that went to private schools were in smaller schools with smaller classes, and they got to stay in school more than the kids in public school in bigger places. And I wonder how that's gonna impact the thinking of parents when making choices for their 7th and 8th grade students. Like, we could have more people choose private schools.
But many of the private schools have the same tuition as the middle school.
But we're
If
covering
not
all
all.
7th and 8th grade tuitions. Where do they go? Public, private?
Oh, okay, got it.
So it doesn't really matter from a budget standpoint.
Okay,
The only place where it matters is what the actual number is, which is in fact the point of Cheryl's recommendation.
okay, thank you.
So I'm gonna make a motion, just to move things along, that, the Westminster School District Board approve, the budget as presented with an additional $80,000 to cover possible extra 7th and 8th grade, tuitions, meaning that the total, would then be, $4,618,770.31.
A second? I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion? I'm actually, this is yours to
I know,
ask.
but I love that you're doing it.
Won't be doing it long, another month, this is all yours. Okay, so actually, it gets even more complicated after March, doesn't it? So is there any further discussion from my Westminster brothers and sisters? All right, I guess one of you ought to make a motion, or you made the motion.
David made the motion, Charlie seconded.
Seconded it, so I guess now is time. Are you in favor of your motion?
Right.
What a shock, and if the seconder's in favor, and it's the
And the
person.
chair is in favor.
Well, there it is, it's unanimous. I'm gonna ask the Unified District Board, if you would, if anyone would move to ratify and recommend this budget to the, is there a hand up? Or is there what?
I thought I saw someone's hand go up, so I apologize.
Any hands?
I'll move it.
There we go, thank you. So we'll do a roll call of those folks. We'll start with Elise,
Yes.
and we'll move over to Melissa. I want to get my two Westminster folks on board first before we speak. Ginger,
Yes.
Wynn,
Yes.
who am I missing? Jessa,
Yes.
and I'll vote in the affirmative, so it's unanimous. So Westminster, you got a budget, and it's up to you to approve it. Well, all right, yes. Now, the Ask Graph, and I will tell folks that are on the Athens Grafton that when we meet, one of the things we have to determine is whether we're going to ask our folks to act on charter reform, or if we're going to put that off to a later meeting, because I'm feeling uncomfortable trying to get all that crammed in a last minute meeting before the 20th. So tonight we're going to recommend budgets, and we may ask people later on this spring to recommend modifications, because come July we'll have trouble making a quorum, because there will be 4 out of 6 members, because the 6 members, will literally be, if anybody vetoes an item, all it do is walk out of the room. So we need to get that fixed, and we'll need to figure out what the district is called, if it's not gonna stay that, you know. I still think that having, the select board chairs of Athens and Grafton should arm wrestle in a public forum, so we can pick which name comes first on the Athens Grafton or Grafton Athens School District. But that's just me. So we're going to tonight, we're going to move to approve this. I assume, and I'm going to need some guidance if we're ready to do warnings tonight. I'm thinking probably not, because unless we've got the dollar amount figure in terms of per, what is it, this language, I always forget this language for the voters.
Yeah, we're gonna address the warning on the next item of this agenda, so let's.
Fine, then let's do that.
You want to approve your budget?
Yeah, I very much do, yes. So, why don't you talk us through the AFGRAF FY23 proposal?
So, thank you. So we went through very similar to what we just talked about with Westminster. So looking at those few areas where we could find some dollars or ensure that we had the right amount in there to make sure we're covering expenses. So one of those that I pointed out, so there's that 10% technology that you haven't seen before, which did do a slight increase there, but also in these salary lines, just looking and making sure that they are accurate to cover expenses that we have there. Again, and then in the health insurance, you'll see like here's an area where it was actually underfunded originally.
Right.
And so we're making sure that's why you see an increase there, because that was actually underfunded. That and a lot of that, just so we're real clear, is because you have movements in faculty, and sometimes a faculty member maybe didn't take insurance, but then this year they're choosing to take insurance, and so therefore, if that isn't taken into consideration each time you run your budget, you run that potential of having that problem. I mean, I think another place where it's savings, just to point out, is like Angela doesn't take health insurance. But in the previously presented budget, there was health insurance in there.
Yeah.
Because the previous administrator took health insurance, and so that wasn't taken into consideration to reduce that down. That's just, I bring that up because, you know, when Angela wins the lottery and moves to the Bahamas,
She's still going to be our principal. Not getting away with that easily.
I will.
that potentially a new administrator could come on and want to take insurance. So I say that is, you know, I don't think it's a huge risk in that, because I don't think, you know, Angela's going to leave if she wins the lottery, because we just not let her go. But I just want to, you know, just point out that that's where those savings are, and just make sure, you know, I'm clear on those. So again, going through and nipping through a little bit, of trying to find that, and where maybe things were not accurately being reported. You know, again, HRAs, where it says 1680, they were actually 2100. So this one actually went up a little bit more than others where they went down. But that seems to be the Grafton way.
Oh dear, don't tell that to my constituents.
I really know.
And then what's a little different from what I think you have in front of you, Angela pointed out that I hadn't done it, but I hadn't caught it, or we hadn't really had a chance to talk, was that capital projects, 5490,
Yeah,
$10,000 was zeroed out, and so we added that back in just before the meeting here.
Good, because I wanted to do that.
Well, I knew you were going to do that, Jack, so I just thought I'd
Just
say.
save you
Highlight
time.
it up there, because we
Yeah.
don't have the
Yeah.
numbers on the
Thank you,
side.
yeah, so that is right here.
Yeah. Right.
So 5490 And there it is, and so you'll see it zeroed out over there, so that was actually added back.
And that's a philosophical thing that I believe that you should always have the capital account because buildings deteriorate, things go wrong, and you should always have money just because buildings, because there is depreciation in facilities, and you should always have some money put aside for major repairs and or replacement, because buildings don't last forever. So that's the philosophy behind that.
So then also, just to finish up here real quick, so Ricky and I also went through and looked at the technology instruction.
Thank you.
And really tried to, number one, like a big swing that I'll point out is at 5651,
Yep.
which was zero and actually is really living around $7,000. And what that is, and then you'll see the line right underneath that, which is tech-related hardware, was at $9,000 and is zeroed out. That was a miscoding that took place in prior years, and so we're trying to work towards making sure we're coding things in the right place. But you know, Ricky feels comfortable that $9,000 wasn't needed. Also looking at, you'll see some other reductions where like the dues and fees is down $1,500. General supplies is down, and then the internet subscriptions are down. So we're really trying to balance that out and get down to true numbers. So
that sounds good. A couple small questions. The regular ed budget for teachers, is that a budget? I'm assuming that we have
salaries.
The salary line right at the top.
Yep.
Now, does that include a halftime, what time on the librarian side?
So your librarian lives separate out of that.
Okay.
And that is right now, that is funded at that current, what was it, 20%.
Okay. I just want to make sure that 20%, you know, if that's, do we need to move that to 25% to make that a viable offer to people?
I mean, I always think I think it's extremely difficult to get portional for people, but
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I just don't think you're going to hire anybody at that, and so I'm asking this so that we can actually fill the position.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to have a 1 day a week librarian.
Well, neither am I. So, you know, tell me what you need.
Maybe I'm gonna be the librarian,
Well, that wasn't necessarily, you know, I mean, I'm sure you'll be spectacular at it, but I just want to make sure that we're, you know, I have a great allergy to deficit budgets because this is a year where we have federal money to cover a multitude of sins if we need to, but that money will go away the following year, and I want us to pay for what we actually need, and not give people sticker shock who won't understand what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about like a partnership with our local library, something like that. But I haven't really explored it because I wasn't sure if that was definitely what was going to happen. But if we are definitely going down that road, then I'm going to need to search for some creative ideas
Ballpark
for
for
that.
what the difference is.
Say that again?
What's my cost difference? I'm trying to give you money to do what you need, so I'm trying to figure out what that is.
For a 1 day a week librarian?
Or a 2 day a week, or whatever it is you think you're gonna hire.
Yeah, Laura and I had talked about that, Laura Hazard at Saxon River, about the two of us collaborating on a librarian. Did she just hire anyone?
She did.
She did, yeah.
And Saxon River is obviously closer, you know, than
Yeah, yeah.
Westminster anyways.
But
I don't know if that person can work full time.
Too, right?
Well, the question is.
We'd have to go back to look.
If I
How
put
many
it-
days a week are they?
If
on
I put another
substitute?
$10,000 in, is that enough to do anything, or do I need to give you more?
So that's at 20% at 15,500, so another 20% would get you, you know, at 30,000, you'd be at a 40% person.
All right, so with,
So a 50% person would be what, about 35,000? And I mean, that's based on, that $15,000 here is based on the current person that's serving in that role.
yeah,
So it would all depend on where you think that
I'm
person's
just
gonna come in.
trying to take a number in here.
Yeah, so I would think,
Can just ask a question,
Yeah.
Jack? And you know what, this year you've had Mandy, right?
Yes,
And, she's been working 20%.
yes,
Has that been satisfactory?
no.
So
Would be
I
great to
think
have
around
more,
$30,000,
because
you might be safe, Jack.
All right, so let's,
Mandy also does the farm to school.
Alright.
But in thinking about that, and when I was saying, thinking of some creative ways, we're trying to grow our partnership with the Nature Museum as well. And our plan is to come up with like a 2-year plan for each grade level span. And then next year, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, try and ask for money in the budget, to budget for that programming over at the Nature Museum. So that could maybe satisfy some of our farm to school and, you know, work with the Nature Museum with that. And so that's still, I'm still working on that portion of it. So that's why I'm trying to be a little creative with the library position, because that's also
well,
would be a farm to school. So if we,
again, the thing about this is the line items are suggestion, the bottom line is the bottom line. What you do, how you work it out, it's up to you.
right,
What I don't want to do is make you not have something that makes this an inequitable school situation for
Right.
Athens and Grafton.
yeah, so we're saying a 0.4.
So we're saying 30,000 add to the bottom line.
Not add 30,000 to the bottom line.
Okay, sorry,
Add 15.
at 15,
Because there was
okay,
already
sorry.
15.
And I might go so far as to say 16, Jack.
Oh, gosh.
I like
all right.
round numbers.
All right, 16. Second question.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to monopolize this, folks, because please hop in if it sounds like I'm doing that. Substitutes. There's ever been a year where substitutes are an issue? It's got to be this year. And I'm assuming that it's going to be just as craptastic next year. So the question is, you got a $6,000 line here, $6,600 line. You used it all up already? Yeah, just is that enough?
I don't know, my current budget says that we haven't had paid any substitutes, so it must be at a different line.
Okay,
It's not going on.
that, really?
Let
But,
me see if I can find.
so we
Just
actually,
stop sharing.
We hadn't either.
not sure if I had reported it out, but we hired someone with ESSER funds as a building sub / nurse assistant. And that's all funded through ESSER, and she actually just started.
Okay, well,
last week.
ESSER
So-
makes sense if this is a health and safety related expense.
So we've been using that. We've been
Okay.
using her to sub, and we'll have her again next year, with this year and next year position. So I don't know if we need to add more
Okay,
to there.
all right. That's all I got. Anybody else?
If you want to give me
Yeah,
a minute, I can try and find how much, no, I gotta go, yeah, I was in the wrong one.
Well,
But
Angela,
Yeah.
along the same lines that was brought up for Westminster, do we have extra in there for tuition on 7th, 8th graders in case we have an influx? Or are we scheduled for just what we know we have?
That's a good question then.
we've traditionally gone 2 over. I say traditionally, we've gone 2 over just as a cushion, so that's a good question.
Yeah, right now there's, so if you look under, it's not being showed up there anymore. Last year, 351,000 was budgeted. Next year it's 259,000.
Is that for the bodies that we know for a fact are there? Is there any projection, or if that number changes?
We'll have it.
I meant to send you an email about this, Angela, today, and I think I confused, so I'm sorry, I'm catching you by surprise.
I'll have, no, I know, 5, 12, 15 in 7th and 8th grade times 16. Yeah. $252. Yeah, it looks like there's not.
Pretty tight there.
Yeah.
The number you just said.
Yeah,
All right.
252 and there's 259.
All right.
So I don't even think the
That's
extra
all right.
covers.
Yeah.
That doesn't give us
All
enough
right.
for one extra then.
So what are you thinking? You want to add 1, you want to add 2, what's your thought?
When you say,
I'm all new to this.
are you saying add 100?
No, you're adding what
I
I
mean,
would put to as
one
a ghost, because you don't know if there will be another.
Right.
So do you want to add 1 or 2 ghosts?
I mean, 2?
I mean, I would, based on,
Is 2
Yeah.
not having the history, but based on what I just heard, you guys talk about the fact that you've been running, 2,
Yeah.
and now you're down to pretty tight.
Yeah.
I would probably recommend, just so you don't hurt yourself, that
That's
you
what
look
I'm
at
trying
the
to
2.
You'd be adding like.
So
So-
2 times 18, 36?
18 is 36,
All
yeah, so
right,
you're
good.
talking 36 and 16, so you're at
52.
52.
All right.
You're using 18, not 16?
I think, is it, should I use 16? 16, okay, then, sorry,
32.
then it's 32, so that's 48. All right, so 48 is the shift. I'm speaking for myself, so I want to hear from everybody if I'm completely nuts on this. Ginger, what do you think?
Can you tell me again what the tuition is for each student?
16,000.
16 even?
On this current bill, this current invoice, I have 16,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's projected for next year also?
So the exact amount for next year, if our numbers stay exactly the same, would be 254, and right now there's 259 in there, so there's an extra 5. So
Okay.
we could,
You want to add 3 students, you're saying?
I had 2, Ginger. go.
2, okay. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
so we want to add like 27, because there's already 5 extra,
Okay, so make it 27 then.
right? 6.
You're calling the shot here.
So altogether, 286.
So 16 plus 27, which makes it 43. Jessa, any thoughts on this?
No.
Are these numbers that I'm pulling out of wherever I'm pulling them out of sound acceptable?
They do sound acceptable to me, and I do like having a cushion on tuition.
Right. Elise, you're on our board, what do you think? You can say, I don't care, it's not gonna be my problem next year, but. Yeah, Elise,
Can you hear
on?
me? Can you hear me?
Now, yeah.
Okay. Are you just asking for my opinion on the overall budget or a specific line? I'm sorry.
If these changes sound rational to you, because I'm going to ask Hardy, even though he's not on our board, because he's one of the people I rely on when it comes to fiscal stuff. You may not know I rely on him, but I do.
Everything that's seems reasonable so far that's been discussed.
So, Marty, any thoughts on this? You on?
I'm okay with it, looking at the numbers. It's very close. Last year, the number that we were looking at on the split when we were trying to estimate this was 1,766,721. So this is pretty close.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have any thoughts? Because I'm going to move that we approve this budget, or I'm going to move that we approve this budget. Lacking any further discussion? How say you, Wynn?
Yes.
How say you, Jessa?
Yes.
How say you, Ginger?
Yes.
You, Elise?
Yes.
And how say you, Melissa? We've got a budget, people. All right, very good. And the number is, and let's just, for the record, make sure that that the number that we're adding is the 1,723,983 plus $43,000.
No, we'd be, that's because you're missing 10,000 out of that.
Okay,
So
give
it'd be
me the correct number, please.
$1,819.
1,800.
Wait, $1,819,983.98.
All right, so that's, wait a minute, just so
Well, let me run the numbers here.
that sounds a little high. You want to try that again?
Yeah, let me let the computer do my work for me. What's that?
Yeah. Because it's 1,723 plus 43. Okay. 43 to it. I was thinking it was going to be 1,766.
The one below it.
Yeah.
The 15,000.
Hey, Bruce, could you pour the tea water? Thanks.
Please mute yourself.
Or share the tea.
Right.
Oh.
So I thought this was going to be 1,766,9. We will have a brief break for mathematics. And those that,
Yeah, so that's, I just ran it, Jack, so that's what it would be here at $1,819,983.98.
okay, help me out, because I thought we started with one.
Nope, because that, you add 10,000 to that first, because we.
Okay, so that would make it 1,733. And then you add 43, that's all we're adding. 1,733 plus 43 would be 1,776, not 1 million.
My computer's doing the math for me, so that's why I'm trying to.
Yeah, I'm doing the old fashioned way they taught me in third grade.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you, though. We added 43 million, or.
Yeah.
3 million. We added 43 million.
Yeah. Well, that may have been part of the problem. I can see that.
So it would be, if you added just the, you're adding 50, so you're adding.
43. What?
No, but then you got, so it's 43, it's 53, because the $10,000.
Yes, right.
So it's 1, 7, 2, 3, 9, 8.
So 53,000 on top of 723 is 1,776.
Yes.
Okay, that's where we go.
1,776,983.98.
Okay, good.
So I'll just have to go back. You know what it's doing somewhere? It's over calculating.
Yeah,
So,
and I'm, like I
So I
say,
apologize, but
pen and
thank you.
paper, we got ourselves a number. Just to confirm that the number is 1,776,983.98, and that is what we have approved. God bless us all. All right, thank you. So again, you've confirmed not only that we passed the budget, but what the dollar amounts are.
You want to do
So-
a formal motion? A formal motion?
Yes, formal motion,
So moved.
yes. And I thought we just did a,
Informal, yeah.
okay, I'm sorry. So moved. Again, we'll do it a second time. Ginger?
Yes, I approve.
Okay. Jessa?
Yes.
All right. Who else? Elise?
No, she's gone.
No, Elise is
She's there.
still up
Oh,
there.
right.
She's just studying us and wondering where she went.
Her mouse keeps freezing. It takes a minute to get it to activate. Just thumbs up.
Yeah, we're having a little audio issue there, Elise. If you can give me a thumbs up. Nothing on.
Okay, yes, I agree. Yeah, I got kind of kicked out.
Listen.
Yes.
Who, am I missed anybody? I'm sorry, Lynn. So you made the motion, so again, we now have both an approval of the budget and a number for that. And, great. So, moving on, what else we got here?
Plans for town meeting.
Plans for
Warning.
for warnings in town meetings. Why don't you start?
Okay.
Another warning,
Very shortly, within a matter of days.
warning for the town meeting, what they're gonna say for the voters to approve.
I think someone needs to maybe mute themselves.
Hardy?
I got it.
Got it.
You got it?
Sorry, Hardy.
So within a matter of days, we need to approve a warning, and either now or within a few days, to submit to the towns, so that they can include it in the town report. And also, we need to submit the principal's report, the board chair's report, a report from the supervisory union. Typically, also, the town reports have the 3 years prior budgets for townspeople to compare. Westminster School District is new. The Union School District does not report directly to the towns. It has its own separate meeting, technically, or it has anyway in the last few years. And so that simplifies matters from the Westminster standpoint. But let me just, I've got from the last couple of meetings with town meetings that actually had warrant articles from the school district. Let me just outline what they were. They were only 4. Say in 2018. The first one is a pro forma wording about authorizing the school district to instruct its directors and treasurer to borrow money if necessary on the credit of the town school district for its current expenses in anticipation of multiple taxes and receipt of money due from the state aid. Pro forma, it seems like we could plug that in. The next one is refers to compensation for district officers. That is nothing that I don't believe we've even included in our budget, and it's nothing that has been voted on by the board itself. So I think that one could just be dropped until the board decides that they want to settle on maybe some compensation and then ask the town for it, probably in the following year. Then comes the motion about the budget itself, and it essentially has 2 sentences, 2 parts. The first is it reads, shall the voters of the Westminster Town School District approve the school board to expend the figure that we've come up with, $4,600,000, whatever, $1,000. Which is the amount the school board has determined to be necessary for the ensuing fiscal year, ? Then it says, and this is something that is in every warning about budgets.
Yeah.
It is estimated this proposed budget, if approved, will result in education spending of X amount per equalized pupil. This projected spending per equalized pupil is In this case, it was 5.7% higher than the spending for the current year. We don't have a previous year to refer to, so that last sentence would be not included. It would simply be a figure of what the spending, essentially the budget that we just approved, 4,600,000, divided by the number of estimated equalized pupils for next year. I don't think the state has come up with. There's a lot of talk about how pupils should be weighted and how the equalized pupil numbers should be applied next year. And so I came up with a sentence that reads, the estimated spending per equalized pupil resulting from this budget, if approved, will be provided in a supplementary enclosure to this report as soon as the state determines the town's equalized pupil count. And then the last warrant article is to transact any other proper business to be brought before the town school district meeting. So I think we can approve warrant articles, at least if you were okay about substituting that sentence I just read into that article referring to the budget.
So I do have the estimate from the state on equalized pupils.
You do?
Yeah, I got it before the meeting here.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I just hadn't opened it.
So we can just do the division.
So I can give you those numbers. Someone told me it was this guy getting old. All right, so let me get over there for Westminster. The FY20 equalized pupil count town level is 342.44.
FY22?
FY23.
23, okay. Is say it again?
Is 342.44. 342.44.
$342.44.
No, you're at 42 students.
Okay, sorry.
That's equalized
Yeah,
pupils.
equalized people, okay, right. And so you can do the math based on that.
So then someone who has a calculator can divide what we just approved for the budget, 400 or 4 million.
No, not 4 million.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
What we
yours.
approved
I was like, no, I was thinking in my head graphing, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, no, it's only 1 million.
Okay, so how much was it again?
4,618,000.
4,618,770
770 and 31 cents.
.31
divided by 342.
342.44.
4.
Okay. $13,487.82.
Okay, so that's a great figure.
It's much lower than
It's almost unbelievable. But you're sure that they sent the right people as people count?
I mean, this is literally as, and he's got it as.
You got 300. How many bodies do you have in the building?
This year,
Yeah.
155.
That's
Students.
right.
Well,
But there's absolutely can't
High
be.
school, and you have high school and middle school students too.
Yeah, but this would just include.
Oh, then that's no good.
This would include, it would not include high school, it should not include high school, it'd just be middle school. and
I'm
elementary.
sure 300 students is awesome.
Because it's high school is a separate district.
They kept the high school as that.
Okay. You know, I think it would be wise if,
If you want to hold off and I can get, so
Yeah.
I have asked Glenn
yeah,
Hankinson, who we're consulting with for the business manager. He actually also said if you want him to put together the warnings, he will put those together for you.
What a splendid thing, and
I said, yes, thank you very much.
What-
I was doing that while we were
on
earlier on, so.
it would need for us to do is for him to put it together and on the 19th, we would need to have a 5-minute meeting to formally warn and sign the 2 warnings, both for Craft and for us. I think that we did that a couple of years ago when we ran into a similar jam. I think it's a smart thing for us to do, rather than try to calculate it out right now, because A, it's bad television, and B, I really want to make sure we get the right numbers. So let's do that.
Okay, and it is 2 days after Westminster's warning.
Well,
Yeah, no,
if you need it like earlier, then by all means, let's do it earlier. Just, how much time do you think your main man can get this by?
Let me just add, I had started on it today also. Thank you, David, for what you've done. I looked back through what Sean Tui, the attorney who's been helping us, has sent us.
Yeah.
There's also that pro forma language at the top that has to do with where you vote and that kind of thing. There's also, I think, the business about the moderator, the clerk, and the treasurer, that may need to be warned.
Yeah, you have to have a moderator. You either have to agree that you're having sharing moderator, or you have a moderator.
I'm just looking at what it was also in the previous thing. And then he sent us the language about the election of the board members that I thought perhaps needed to be. So I think we need a little legal review. I do think we do need a special meeting. And they had asked us for this the week of the 17th. The 17th is a holiday, Martin Luther King. So I'm assuming that if we get it done by Tuesday or something like that, we should be okay. And we have the board letter, we have the principal letter. The superintendent will work with.
No, we have all those things done. I mean, we've got.
So I think we're in good shape, but we ought not to rush this to everybody's.
Right.
Yeah, the one thing we may not have is the audit, well, we won't, I know we won't for that date, the audit report on Westminster and the Union Elementary.
I don't think that for purposes of this, it's nice to have the audit report in, and I think it's certainly an explanation of that it's so in process. If anybody doesn't know that we've been having some, accounting issues by now, let's be clear, because accounting issues, and that's still in process, and you should be fine. The voters think that that's a problem. Well, they have the choice of voting no. Hopefully they won't. That's the choice they have. And that was just for those in Athens and Grafton. Athens and Grafton will have its own report. There will be a shares report that I like to write that will be in the Athens and in the Grafton town meeting documents, but it will simply lay out both what's been going on, and we'll introduce the numbers, but the formal pamphlet has all the numbers in it, will be its own document, will be Athens and Grafton, when it'll actually be the unified district, and it will have all that stuff in it, and that's how we'll go forward with us. I think just because of all this stuff with the audit, and because I was really AWOL in November, we did not work on getting the articles of agreement revised, and we will need to do that before July 1st, but that's separate. We also, I have not heard back from the state as to whether we have to have whether we are going to do this via whether we're going to do this via a Australian ballot, or we're going to do this via some sort of combined town meeting. It was rather dubious that my idea was going to fly as much as I kind of liked it. So I think that we're probably going to have to do this via Australian ballot, unless we want to call a special meeting of the district and have everybody assemble. I think that's that feels weird, especially since both Athens and Grafton are considering going to Australian ballots, one because of COVID and one because you guys have been talking about doing it anyway. And so I think we'll end up with an
Athens will be
Australian ballot.
doing the Australian ballot for elected people.
Well, it'll be Australian
The
ballot.
articles will be.
It'll
from
probably be
Florida.
Australian ballot for the whole bloody thing, to be honest with you. That's something I need to get cleared up and sort of pull you all on, because we will want to have that nailed down as a part of the warning.
So we're talking about putting all of the school budgets on an Australian ballot,
Right.
not having anything discussed else.
Right, and just simply because.
And that will be provided to the town.
Right, and it'll be a report, and it'll be, just like the high school, the high school thing is, it'll be like that.
Okay.
So, that's what it's feeling like to me at the moment. So, you'll meet for 5 minutes in Westminster, we'll meet for probably 15, just to make sure we've got it all untangled. And we can do it at the same time, because why not? If that's, unless you guys want to just formally go out and warn your articles.
So we'll see what we can learn tomorrow and try to figure out a date for the special meeting.
Yeah.
ASAP, right?
That's the deal.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? So that's the process. I would remind people in Westminster, we have a vacancy, at least one vacancy. Actually, we have technically two, because one person term is up, Melissa, and the other person signed on as ad interim. So those positions will need to be filled. Ginger, you're also ad interim, so your position needs, I'm encouraging you strongly to run again, but we need to get you together get your ballot together, and we'll help you with that if need be. So that's what I know. I don't know who else's term is up, or and I'll check with Kim tomorrow on that, just to make sure that I set that. I know I'm still on. I think you're still on.
I have no idea. I haven't been able to figure out when I was last voted on.
Just such a sense of the community. All right, so that's it. I think that's all we've got. Unless there is an objection, and there might be, I'm entertaining a motion to adjourn. Yeah, that was real quick. At 8:25. Any objection to that by any of my colleagues? You really want to stay longer? Doesn't sound like it. So we were adjourned at 8:25. Thank you all for your time.